The best fortress is to be found in the love of the people, for although you may have fortresses, they will not save you if you are hated by the people. Niccolo Machiavelli, they tell you control is about domination, a raised fist, a shouted order, a king on a throne. This is a child's understanding. True control is invisible. It is the architecture of the mind, the subtle arrangement of incentives, the careful placement of boundaries. It is not about what you force people to do. It is about what you make them want to do. While the masses chase fleeting pleasures and react to surface-level events, those who understand control are designing the very game they are playing. They are architects of reality, not merely players within it. The world believes in freedom. This is their weakness. Freedom is an illusion, carefully maintained to keep the gears turning. Give a man enough rope and he will hang himself. Give a population the illusion of choice, and they will choose exactly what you want them to. The levers of control are not physical. They are psychological. Understand this, and you begin to see the world as it truly is, a landscape of carefully crafted desires and predictable responses. The average person believes their thoughts are their own. They believe their choices are freely made. This is a comforting fiction, but a fiction nonetheless. Every advertisement, every news story, every social interaction is a carefully designed stimulus intended to elicit a specific reaction. These stimuli, repeated and reinforced, create neural pathways, conditioning individuals to behave in predictable ways. It is not about breaking their will, but about shaping it. Think of a river. You cannot stop the flow of water, but you can build dams, dig canals, and redirect its course. Similarly, you cannot eliminate human desire, but you can channel it, amplify it, and direct it towards your desired ends. This is the essence of psychological manipulation, not to suppress, but to redirect. The most effective form of control is self-control. Make a person believe they are acting according to their own free will, and they will become your most loyal servant. This is achieved through carefully crafted narratives, appealing to their deepest values and aspirations. A politician, for example, does not simply tell people what to do. They paint a vision of a better future, a future that aligns with the hopes and fears of their target audience. They present themselves as the vehicle for achieving this vision, the only one capable of navigating the treacherous path ahead. In doing so, they are not merely dictating policy, they are shaping the very desires of the population, making them complicit in their own subjugation. The key is to create a sense of ownership. People are far more likely to support ideas they believe they came up with themselves. This is why suggestion is often more effective than direct command. Plant the seed of an idea, nurture it with carefully chosen information, and allow it to blossom in the minds of others. Consider the concept of social proof. People are inherently social creatures, hardwired to conform to the behavior of the group. This instinct, once essential for survival, can be exploited to manipulate entire populations. By creating the illusion of widespread support for a particular idea or product, you can bypass critical thinking and induce conformity. This is the power of trends, viral marketing, and manufactured consensus. It is not about convincing people individually, but about creating a social environment in which dissent becomes difficult, even unthinkable. The fear of social isolation is a powerful motivator, and those who understand control wield it with precision. They understand that the individual is far more vulnerable than the collective, and they exploit this vulnerability to maintain their power. Emotional manipulation is another cornerstone of control. Logic and reason are powerful tools, but they are often trumped by the irrationality of human emotion. Fear, anger, and desire are the primary drivers of human behavior, and those who can effectively manipulate these emotions can control the masses. A demagogue, for example, does not appeal to logic. They stoke the flames of fear and resentment, identifying scapegoats and promising simple solutions to complex problems. They create a climate of emotional intensity, where critical thinking is suppressed and rational debate becomes impossible. Similarly, advertisers exploit desire, associating their products with status, beauty, and happiness. They tap into our deepest insecurities and aspirations, promising to fill the void within. The most sophisticated form of control operates at the level of belief. Change what people believe to be true, and you change their entire reality. This is the domain of ideology, religion, and propaganda. By shaping the fundamental assumptions people make about the world, you can control their thoughts, feelings, and actions without them even realizing it. Consider the power of narratives. Stories shape our understanding of the world, defining what is good and evil, right and wrong. Those who control the narrative control the moral compass of society. They determine what is acceptable and unacceptable, what is rewarded and punished. They create a shared reality, a collective dream that binds people together and reinforces their power. The architecture of control is not about brute force. It is about subtle influence. It is about understanding the underlying psychological mechanisms that drive human behavior and exploiting them to achieve your desired ends. It is about creating a system in which people willingly participate in their own subjugation, believing they are acting freely, when in reality they are merely puppets dancing to a carefully orchestrated tune. To master control, you must master the human mind. You must understand its strengths and weaknesses, its hopes and fears, its rational and irrational tendencies. Only then can you begin to shape the world according to your will. The masses believe in freedom. Use this belief against them. The rise of Francisco Pizarro offers a brutal case study. Imagine the scene. The year is 1532. Pizarro, a man of illegitimate birth and minimal education, stands before Atahualpa, the emperor of the Inca Empire. Atahualpa commands an army of tens of thousands, a civilization built on centuries of tradition and power. Pizarro has a mere few hundred men, outgunned, outmanned, and thousands of miles from any form of reliable resupply. On the surface, the situation seems impossible. A rational observer might predict Pizarro's swift and utter annihilation. But Pizarro understood something far more profound than simple military arithmetic. He understood the architecture of control. He recognized that true power doesn't reside in numbers, but in the ability to manipulate the beliefs and perceptions of others. Pizarro's initial act was one of audacious deception. He feigned peaceful intentions, inviting Atahualpa to a meeting in the city of Cajamarca. Atahualpa, secure in his power and perhaps driven by curiosity, accepted. This was Pizarro's first victory. He had established the terms of engagement, lulling his opponent into a false sense of security. The meeting was a trap. As Atahualpa entered the city square, accompanied by thousands of unarmed attendants, Pizarro unleashed his men. The Spanish soldiers, hidden in the surrounding buildings, opened fire with cannons and muskets, unleashing a wave of terror and chaos. The Inca warriors, caught completely by surprise, were slaughtered. Atahualpa was captured. This act of treachery was not merely a military tactic. It was a calculated assault on the Incas' belief system. Pizarro understood that the Inca revered their emperor as a divine figure, a link between the earthly and the spiritual realms. By capturing Atahualpa, he struck at the very heart of Inca authority. He shattered their sense of order, their confidence in their leadership, their belief in their invincibility. With their emperor imprisoned, the Inca army was paralyzed, uncertain of how to respond. Pizarro then initiated a campaign of psychological manipulation. He treated Atahualpa with a mixture of respect and veiled threat, playing on the emperor's pride and fear. He extracted a massive ransom in gold and silver, promising to release Atahualpa upon its payment. But this was another lie. Once the ransom was secured, Pizarro put Atahualpa on trial, accusing him of treason and idolatry. The charges were absurd, but the outcome was predetermined. Atahualpa was found guilty and sentenced to death. The execution of Atahualpa was a masterpiece of control. Pizarro understood that the Inca believed in reincarnation. By offering Atahualpa the option of converting to Christianity before his execution, Pizarro exploited this belief. If Atahualpa converted, he would be baptized and strangled. If he refused, he would be burned at the stake. Pizarro knew that the Inca feared fire, believing it would destroy their soul and prevent them from being reborn. Faced with this choice, Atahualpa chose conversion, hoping to preserve his chances of reincarnation. In doing so, he unwittingly legitimized Pizarro's authority and undermined the Inca's religious beliefs. With Atahualpa dead, the Inca Empire was left without a leader, its spiritual foundations shattered. Pizarro then moved to consolidate his control, exploiting existing rivalries within the empire and installing puppet rulers who would serve his interests. He understood that it was easier to rule through intermediaries than to impose his will directly. Pizarro's success was not solely due to superior weaponry. It was due to his understanding of the architecture of control. He recognized that the most effective way to conquer a people is to conquer their minds. He achieved this by undermining their beliefs, exploiting their fears, and manipulating their perceptions. He created a situation in which the Inca willingly participated in their own subjugation, believing they were acting in their own best interests, when in reality they were merely pawns in his game. This is the essence of sophisticated control, to make people believe that they are free even as they are being manipulated. Pizarro's actions demonstrate that power is not about physical force but about psychological dominance. It is about the ability to shape the narrative, to define reality, and to control the hearts and minds of others. The conquistadors understood this implicitly. Convert them or kill them. Control their beliefs and you control their actions. The Inca Empire crumbled, not because of a fair fight, but because of a carefully orchestrated campaign of deception and manipulation. Pizarro's story is a stark reminder that the architecture of control is a powerful tool, capable of subverting even the most formidable empires. It is a lesson that must be understood by anyone who seeks to wield power, whether in the political arena, the business world, or in their personal relationships. For in the end, the true battleground is not the battlefield, but the human mind. The most insidious form of control is not imposed through force, but through the subtle manipulation of perception. It begins with the erosion of trust, the systematic dismantling of the foundations upon which people base their understanding of the world. This is achieved through a constant barrage of conflicting narratives, carefully crafted to sow doubt and confusion. The target loses their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood, fact from fiction. They become disoriented, vulnerable, and increasingly reliant on external sources for guidance. These sources, of course, are the very ones orchestrating the manipulation. Consider the modern media landscape, a cacophony of voices vying for attention, each presenting its own version of reality. The sheer volume of information, the constant stream of breaking news, creates a state of perpetual anxiety and overwhelm. People become paralyzed, unable to process the information effectively, and therefore susceptible to accepting the narratives that are most readily available, regardless of their veracity. This is not accidental. It is a deliberate strategy designed to weaken critical thinking and promote compliance. The more confused and uncertain people are, the easier they are to control. The trap is baited with promises of security and stability. In times of crisis, people crave reassurance, a sense of order amidst the chaos. The manipulator steps into this void, offering simple solutions to complex problems, presenting themselves as a strong and decisive leader who can restore order and protect the vulnerable. They exploit the innate human desire for belonging, creating a sense of community and shared purpose, while simultaneously demonizing those who dissent or question their authority. This creates a powerful in-group dynamic, where loyalty is valued above all else, and critical thinking is actively discouraged. The individual is subsumed by the collective, their sense of self eroded, their autonomy surrendered. They become willing participants in their own oppression, blindly following the dictates of the leader, even when those dictates contradict their own values and beliefs. This is the essence of cult mentality, and it can be observed in various forms, from political movements to corporate cultures to even personal relationships. The common thread is the manipulation of fear, the exploitation of vulnerability, and the suppression of dissent. The architecture of control is further strengthened by the creation of a climate of fear. When people are afraid, they are less likely to challenge authority, less likely to speak out against injustice. They become preoccupied with their own safety and survival, willing to sacrifice their freedom and autonomy in exchange for a perceived sense of security. This fear can be generated through various means, from the exaggeration of external threats to the creation of internal divisions and conflicts. The manipulator may employ propaganda, misinformation, and even outright violence to create a sense of unease and paranoia. They may target specific groups or individuals, scapegoating them for the problems of society, thereby diverting attention from their own actions. The goal is to create a state of constant anxiety, where people are constantly looking over their shoulders, afraid to speak their minds, afraid to challenge the status quo. In this environment, control becomes effortless. People are effectively self-policing, censoring their own thoughts and actions for fear of reprisal. The final layer of the trap involves the manipulation of rewards and punishments. The manipulator creates a system in which compliance is rewarded and dissent is punished. This can take many forms, from offering preferential treatment to those who support the regime to imposing sanctions on those who oppose it. The rewards may be tangible, such as money, power, or status, or they may be intangible, such as social acceptance or a sense of belonging. The punishments may also be tangible, such as fines, imprisonment, or violence, or they may be intangible, such as social ostracism or reputational damage. The key is to create a system in which the perceived benefits of compliance outweigh the perceived costs of dissent. This encourages people to conform to the prevailing norms, even if they disagree with them privately. They learn to suppress their own beliefs and values, to parrot the party line, in order to avoid the negative consequences of nonconformity. Over time, this can lead to a complete erosion of their moral compass, as they become increasingly willing to compromise their integrity in exchange for personal gain. The system becomes self-perpetuating, as those who benefit from it have a vested interest in maintaining it, while those who are harmed by it are too afraid to challenge it. This is the ultimate triumph of the architecture of control, to create a system that is sustained not by force, but by self-interest and fear. The architecture of control extends beyond mere reward and punishment. It necessitates the careful cultivation of dependence. The manipulator isolates their target, systematically dismantling their support networks and eroding their self-reliance. This isolation can be achieved through subtle means, such as sowing discord among friends and family, or through more overt tactics, such as restricting access to communication and resources. The goal is to create a situation in which the target feels increasingly reliant on the manipulator for their emotional, financial, and even physical well-being. This dependence then becomes a powerful tool of coercion, as the manipulator can threaten to withdraw their support if the target fails to comply with their demands. The target, fearing abandonment and destitution, becomes increasingly willing to submit to the manipulator's will, sacrificing their autonomy and independence in the process. The manipulator understands that a person stripped of their connections is a person stripped of their power. A lone individual is far more vulnerable to manipulation and control than someone who is surrounded by a network of support